Hi everyone, welcome to our any size envelope card tutorial. How many times do you make a card and you think, okay, it's a custom card. You know, I maybe don't have an envelope, or maybe my envelope is way too big. So, you know, as the letter carriers, how can they help it, right? It's going to get bent and the envelope will get bent and maybe it'll mash the card or whatever. You want something that fits snugly, just as if you bought a card at the store. So you want something that fits properly. Well, here's what we want to do. Let me flip my card around here. Here's what we want to do is to create an envelope. No matter what size of card you make, this tutorial is going to show you how to make your own envelope. So to begin, here is our card. This happens to be the trifold card that we made using our birdsong collection. Pretty little card. If you haven't watched a lot of our videos, there is a video tutorial on this card in case you are wondering. But basically how it works is you start out with your card and you take a few measurements. These measurements work for absolutely any card because there is a little bit of math involved. Now, don't worry, you're not going to have to dust off your abacus or get that scientific calculator out that you used for one class you ever had. This is very simple math. So the first thing you do is you measure your short side. And my short side is 4 inches. Okay? So what I'm going to do is imagine this paper just a little bit bigger because I've cut this for you. But this is just a standard size 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper. And actually, for the purposes of the tutorial, I just use photocopy paper. I just use real cheap stuff. It's not what you should be using to make an envelope. Try it out. Like, just use a piece of card, like just regular photocopy paper, and try it out. So then that way you get it, because it's very cheap and inexpensive in case you make a mistake or something like that. Because once you go through it once, this is really super easy to do. But you should use something that is probably like more in that cardstock range. If you're kind of wondering, you're like, well, how thick should my paper be? Just take a regular envelope. You know, we all get bills in the mail and everything else. And just think, okay, well, this is the thickness of this paper. Okay, that's about the thickness of the paper I'll use. So again, you measure the short side and it is 4 inches. So to find out how long we need the card, okay, because my card is actually going to slide into my envelope like this. To find out the length of the card, we take our short side measurement of 4 inches, multiply it by 2, so that's 8, and add 2 inches, okay, because we're going to have a little bit of an overlap there. So that gives me 10 inches. So I take my piece of paper and I measure out my 10 inches. I put it on my cutter. There we go. Okay, so when your card is like that, I'm going to stick this in here. So there's an inch on this side, there's an inch on this side. Okay, so we have plenty of space. Leaving your card exactly the way it is. Okay, so let me flip this back. Okay, so again, 4 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches. Okay, so there's our 10-inch piece of paper. Leave the card the way it is. Just simply flip your paper. Okay, so rotate your paper only. In order to figure out the width of this, we measure the long side, which is 5.5 inches, and we add 2 inches again. Okay, so that makes 7.5 inches. So I cut my paper to 7.5 inches. Away we go, right? Now you can see why I have a little bit smaller piece of paper. There is my actual form without anything on it. Okay, now we're gonna have to make a few score lines. How do we do that? Okay, going back, when your card, you know your card is gonna fold in this way, and this piece is gonna fold up, this piece is gonna fold down, way you go. Basically you want an inch on either side, okay? But we have to remember we need a little bit of a gap in order for your card to slide in. We don't want it that snugly tight, especially with a fat card like this. So what we do is measure, again, this is the same measurements no matter what the card is, because you've already got your paper size. So it's sized properly for this. You measure in 7/8 of an inch from this side and 7/8 of an inch from this side and score that. Okay? So we've got the long score lines. Again, we put our piece of paper back in there, And like I said, we have about 1/8 of an inch on either side of the card so that we can slide it in. Spin your paper. Again, leave your card where it is. Just spin your paper. Okay? Now to figure out where these score lines go, all that we do is we slide this roughly into the center. An easy way to know, okay, well, how do I know exactly what center is? Easy. You take your measurement again. We know our card is 4 inches wide, and we know our entire paper is 10 inches long. Well, I know that if I have 10 inches, I subtract 4 of it out for my card. That brings me down to 6 inches, and I need half on either side. So divide 6 inches by 2, and you get 3 inches, okay? The reason I do that is I want my card exactly centered. So I just move my card around and I say, oh, that's 3 inches on that side. That's 3 inches on that side. Perfect. So this is the spot I want my card, okay? Now what I do, again, in order to get my score line, I want to leave about 1/8 of an inch. So I mark 1/8 of an inch here. I mark 1/8 of an inch here. You can even still see my little pencil lines. Then I put it on my scoring and I score it. So what I'm left with, and you won't be able to see the score lines very well probably here, but what I'm left with here is 4 score lines. 2 going this way, 2 going this way. Okay? Simple, simple. Now, what I do is these 4 corners, okay, we want to cut out these 4 corners. So just take your scissors, trim along those score lines, okay, in each of these 4 corners, and you end up with a piece of paper that looks like this, okay? So that's with my 4 corners cut out. Now, because as you can see, what's going to end up happening is we fold this part up, we fold this part down, and the little tabs on the outside are our gluing strips. So when we fold this up, you apply some glue on here, you fold that up, and there's your envelope. That's pretty easy. Then when you fold this down, as you can see, it'll cover the card perfectly. And then you can put on like a nice little sticker to hold it closed. You could glue it shut. Depending on how much you like them, boy, you could get out all kinds of tape in there and really make it tough for them to get into. Whatever, if you're in a jokey mood, whatever. The last thing I'll tell you about is these tabs. As you can see, I have cut them down a little bit farther from the top, just because when you fold it in, these are really only here for gluing ability, right? It's no big deal if you see a little bit of them. That certainly isn't offensive, but maybe you want to bring them all the way down, so you could just mark a little line. And same thing at the bottom. We don't want these tabs to bind at the bottom when you fold this up, so I just took them off a little bit here at the bottom, so that way, as you fold this up and glue this in, nothing is binding at the bottom. It's not a big bump or, something like that. Even though we're making our own envelope, it doesn't have to look that way. You've done such a great job making this wonderful card. It doesn't have to look like that where, okay, you look like you cut and pasted some ugly thing together, right? So when this card slides in, now, as you can see, I've got a lot of stick-up things on the card and stuff like that. I'm just going to go like this because it'll be just easier. So that card is easily going to slide in there. And when the top flap folds down, how nice is that? Right? Now, the last thing, now you know how to make one of these. Now, let's get really good at it. What I would do, and I should have printed out a piece of paper for you, but I didn't, I apologize. But imagine taking this piece of paper as an example, or something from the kit that you created, and having this as a printed paper. Flipping it over on the reverse side, making all your score lines and all that kind of stuff, cutting it all out, folding it all up, making your envelope. Imagine this. This is all patterned paper. This is all patterned paper. And then you could just put a label on over top for your address and who it's to. Imagine how pretty that would look. Now you've really ratcheted it up a notch in order to match your card. Now who's doing that, right? Somebody's going to be really impressed with your skills with that. So that's it, folks. To make any card have its perfectly sized envelope, that's exactly how you do it. It doesn't matter if your card is a square 5x5. It doesn't matter if you have a little bigger, a little smaller, whatever you have, now you know. Again, with this video, you can rewind and go back and look at the little math as you do it. But trust me, I know I made it once, and I didn't need a little, cliff notes here to remind me how big anything was. It was super easy to do. And when you do it, again, like I said, remember to use a decent quality paper. And number two is when you're trying to decide, okay, how big a piece of paper do I really need? All you have to do is take a couple of measurements because you know, okay, I need my length to be my width of my card, 4 inches, times by 2 is 8, add the 2 inches is 10. So I knew that I could fit on a standard size piece of paper. If my card was 5 inches wide, I would need a 12-inch piece of paper in terms of length. So remember that when you're doing it, right? You certainly can buy at all office supply stores and typically even at some of the department stores in their craft section or whatever. You can buy 12 by 12 paper. You can buy 13 by 19 inch paper. So they're standard sizes. They're not really difficult to come by. So don't worry about that. If your card is a little bit larger and you need a bit bigger piece of paper, not to fret about that because those are easily found pieces of paper and you shouldn't need anything larger than a 13 by 19 inch piece of paper. So it is all one piece. You don't have to, glue anything together. So I hope you've enjoyed our video. I hope that you'll try doing that yourself for some of the cards you make. And now you can custom make this envelope, which is the real pièce de résistance of having a piece of printed paper that matches your card, make your envelope, and what a wonderful gift that will be. Thanks for checking in. I hope you'll give us a thumbs up on the video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll never miss a video whenever we're releasing them, whether they be tutorials or our new kits that we're releasing. Thanks again and happy crafting.